You finish my sentences. I want to say it the way I have just said it, because I have been rehearsing the saying of it for, I think, longer than I have been willing to admit, and I want the first time I say it aloud to be tonight, in this kitchen, with you, with the wind doing what it is doing against the window, with the wine open, with the bread between us. Before I lose the version of myself who can still say it cleanly. You finish my sentences. You have always finished my sentences. It is one of the things people used to comment on when we were younger, when we went to dinner parties, and Helen would tip her head and say, "Look at the two of you. You don't even need the second halves." And you would smile at her, and I would smile at her, and we would carry on, and we were proud of it. We were proud of being the couple who didn't need the second halves. We were proud of being legible to each other. I want to put that on the table first, because I do not want what I am about to say to sound like I have stopped loving you. I have not stopped loving you. I am, in fact, looking at you across this table and feeling something that is recognizably love. I want you to hear me say that before I say the rest of it, because I think the rest of it is going to take some time, and I think you are going to want, at several points, to interrupt me. And I want to ask you, please, this once, to let me finish. Let me finish. I am going to try to put it in order. I noticed it for the first time properly on the 17th of August, which was a Tuesday, which was the day Eleanor called about the dog, and I was standing at the sink, and you were behind me at the table, and Eleanor was on speakerphone because my hands were wet, and Eleanor was crying, and Eleanor was saying that the vet had said it was time, and I turned around to you, and I started to say, "We should," and you said, "Drive up tomorrow," and I said, "Yes, drive up tomorrow," and we drove up tomorrow, and it was the right thing. And Eleanor was grateful that we came, and I held her at the kitchen door of her cottage in the morning, and you took the dog to the car, and you were tender with the dog, and you have always been good in those moments, and I love you for it. I want to tell you what I was actually going to say when I started the sentence "we should." I was going to say, "We should send flowers." I was going to say, "We should send flowers and call her properly in the morning." I was not going to say, "Drive up tomorrow." I had not, at the moment I opened my mouth, considered driving up tomorrow. Driving up tomorrow was your sentence. You put it into the middle of mine, and I accepted it, and then I went and packed an overnight bag, and by the time the bag was packed, I could not remember what I had originally meant to say, and by the time we were on the M4, I had begun to believe that I had meant to say it. I want you to know that I did not, in that moment, think anything was wrong. I thought I had been overruled gently by a husband with better instincts than mine, which is a thing I have thought about you many times across 31 years, and a thing I have, generally, been grateful for. I am not even now certain that you were wrong. Eleanor needed us there. I am glad we went. I am telling you this not because it was a bad outcome. I am telling you this because it was the first time I noticed the gap. The gap is what I want to talk about tonight. The gap is, and I have been trying to time it since August, and I think I have got fairly good at it, about half a second. It is the gap between the moment a sentence of mine begins to leave my mouth and the moment your version of the back half of it arrives. Your version arrives in the gap. Your version arrives, I want to be precise here, before I have decided what the back half of my sentence is. I want to say that again, because it is the thing I cannot stop thinking about. Before I have decided. I am not slow. I am not a person whose sentences trail off because she has not made up her mind. I have made up my mind by the start of the sentence. That is how I have always spoken. But your version arrives in the gap between the start and the finish, and your version is not always. And I want to be careful here. I want to be honest with you and with myself. Your version is not always the version I had made up my mind to say. Please, let me finish. I am going to give you examples, and I want you to listen. I have been keeping them in my head. I have not written them down because I did not want there to be a list of them in the house where you could find it. And I want you to think about what it means that I did not want there to be a list of them in the house where you could find it. I have been married to you for 31 years, and at some point in the last 6 months, I have started hiding the shape of my thinking from you. And I do not know when I started, and I do not know whether I started in August or whether I have been doing it for very much longer, and August is only when I caught myself. Examples. On the 29th of August, we were at the garden center, and I picked up a sage plant, and I said, I think I'll, and you said, put it by the back step. And I said, yes, by the back step. I had been about to say, put it in the herb pot with the rosemary. The sage has been by the back step since August. It is doing fine there. I do not, when I look at it, remember the herb pot version. I have to work to remember the herb pot version. I am working now. On the 4th of September, your sister called, and afterwards I said we could, and you said, have her up for Christmas instead of Easter this year, and I said yes, Christmas instead of Easter. I had been about to say we could ring her back in the morning when she's calmer. Your sister is now coming for Christmas. I am in the version of me that is going to host her at Christmas, looking forward to it. I want you to hear me say that. The version of me that is going to host her at Christmas is looking forward to it. The version of me that started the sentence on the 4th of September would not have invited her, because the version of me that started the sentence on the 4th of September was tired, and your sister exhausts me. And the version of me that started the sentence on the 4th of September was going to say, let's not commit to anything tonight. That woman is not hosting Christmas. That woman has been overwritten by a woman who is hosting Christmas. I do not, please, I am asking you not to speak yet. I do not know which of those women is the one sitting in this chair. On the 19th of September, you came in from the garden and asked what I wanted for supper, and I said, I fancy, and you said something light, the soup from yesterday, and I had the soup from yesterday. I had been going to say, I fancy walking down to the Chippy. I have not, in fact, walked down to the Chippy in some weeks. I noticed last Tuesday that I have not walked down to the Chippy in some weeks. I love the Chippy. I have loved it since we moved to that house in 1997, and it is one of the small things in my life. And I have not been, and I cannot, when I sit and try, remember the last time I went, and I cannot remember whether I stopped going because I stopped wanting to, or because every time I started a sentence about going, the sentence ended somewhere else. I want to stop and say something. I want to say that I do not think you are doing this on purpose. I want to say that very clearly. I am looking at you across this table, and I am looking at the face of the man who held my hand at my mother's funeral and read aloud to me through my hysterectomy recovery and learned to plait Ruth's hair when she was 8 because I was working nights, and I am telling you that I do not believe in any part of me, that you are sitting there cynically completing my sentences in order to control me. I want that on the record between us. I am not accusing you of cruelty. I am not accusing you of strategy. I am, in fact, not entirely sure I am accusing you of anything. I am telling you what I have noticed, because I made a decision in the second week of September that on our anniversary, I would tell you what I had noticed, and tonight is our anniversary, and we are in this cottage that you booked, that I love, that has the kitchen with the green tiles. I always say I want to take home with me, and I am telling you. I want to go further back. I have been trying, since August, to remember the first time it happened. I do not mean the first time I noticed it. I mean the first time it happened. And I want to tell you the memory I keep arriving at, because I want you to tell me whether you remember it the way I do. It is the kitchen of the flat in Tooting. I am 26. You are 28. We have been married for a year and 3 months. It is a Sunday morning. I am at the counter doing toast. You are at the table with the paper. I have just had a conversation with my mother on the phone in which she has told me, in her way, that she will not be coming to visit at Easter because of my father, and I am angry, and I am also relieved because we did not have the spare bed yet, and I am both of those things at once, and I turn from the toaster, and I open my mouth, and I say, I think I'll, and you say, without looking up from the paper, ring her back later and just let it sit. And I say yes, ring her back later and just let it sit. And I let it sit. And in the version of that morning that I lived, that I have told as a story for 30 years, my husband is the kind of man who knows when to let his wife's mother sit for a few hours, and his wife is grateful for him, and the marriage gets one notch tighter. I have been turning that morning over for 2 months. I cannot any longer be certain what I was going to say. I cannot find the sentence I started. I know what you finished. I know what I did. I do not know what I started. I think, and I want you to know that I have tried hard to talk myself out of thinking this. I think you have been doing this for 31 years. I think you have been doing it kindly and gently and probably entirely without knowing you were doing it. And I think the woman sitting in this chair is the woman you're finishing built, sentence by sentence, across 31 years. I think the woman who started the sentence in Tooting in 1993 did not, in fact, want to let her mother sit. I think the woman who started the sentence in Tooting in 1993 was about to say, I think I'll ring her back now and ask her what she actually means. I think that woman was 26 and angry and clear and would have been a very different 57-year-old. I think that woman is dead. I think you killed her gently across one Sunday morning. I think you did not know. I am going to ask you not to take my hand yet. Please, let me finish. I am going to give you the test now. I have been trying not to think about the test all evening because I did not want you to feel me thinking about it, and I do not, even now, fully understand what I mean by that. I do not even now fully understand whether you have been responding to my mouth or to something underneath it. But I have been trying not to think about it, and I have been trying not to look at the test as I went into it, and I want to do it now, before I lose my nerve. I am going to start a sentence, and I am going to start it in the most ordinary way, the way I have started 1,000 sentences in this marriage, and I want you to do what you always do, which is to finish it. I do not want you to think about finishing it. I do not want you to perform an experimental version of finishing it. I want you to finish it the way you have finished my sentences since 1993. I want you to finish it without pausing. The way you finished Drive Up Tomorrow and put it by the back step and Christmas instead of Easter and Ring Her Back Later and just let it sit. Are you ready? I am going to start now. I think we should. Yes? Thank you. You said get a smaller car next year. You said it cleanly, immediately, in the half-second gap, the way I have heard you say 1,000 things, the way you have always said them. Uncle, I want you to know what I was going to say. I was going to say I think we should leave this marriage. I have been going to say that in some form for, I think, 14 months. I have not been able to find the sentence. I have started it in my head in different rooms, on different mornings, and every time I have started it, you have arrived in the half-second gap with something kind and small and reasonable and survivable, and I have followed you into the kind and small and reasonable and survivable. And I have, every time, lost the sentence. I lost it again just now. You said get a smaller car next year, and for a fraction of a second, sitting in this chair, I felt my own sentence. The sentence I had loaded into my mouth. The sentence I had rehearsed for 14 months on the sentence I came to Pembrokeshire to say. Slide sideways and almost become yes, a smaller car next year. I felt it happen. I felt the pivot. I felt the small, honest acceptance start to form in my throat. I am only saying, I think we should leave this marriage now because I caught the pivot in the act, and I want you to know I caught it, and I want you to know that for the first time in 31 years, I have not allowed your half second to complete me. Please do not say anything. I want to sit with the sentence in the air for a moment. I want to tell you what I am noticing. I am noticing that the wind has not changed. I am noticing that the bread is still between us. I am noticing that there is a small piece of butter melting on the board because we forgot to put it back in the fridge after I cut into it, and that the knife is on the board, and that the knife is the bread knife with the serrated edge that we bought in Hay-on-Wye in, I think, 2004, and that you sharpened it yesterday afternoon because you sharpen knives on holidays. It is one of the things you do. It is one of the small, ordinary domestic kindnesses that has made you a man I have loved for 31 years, and I am noticing that I am looking at the knife, and that you are looking at the knife, and that neither of us is reaching for it, and that I want very badly to record in some part of myself that neither of us is reaching for it, because I would like, after tonight, to be able to remember that the knife was on the board and that nobody touched it. I want to ask you something now, and I want you, this time, this once, to wait the half second. I want you to feel the half second arrive, and I want you to feel the answer assemble in your mouth, and I want you to not say it. I want you to let me finish. Can you do that for me? I am going to ask the question now. Have you known? Have you known at any point in the 31 years that you were doing it? No, wait, don't. Please. Wait the half second. I can see the answer in your face. I can see it arriving. I can see your mouth shaping it. I can see in the corner of your jaw the small tightening that you do when you are about to say something kind in order to close a difficult moment. And I am asking you, I am begging you, hold the half second open. Do not finish me this time. I want to know whether the answer that has arrived in your mouth is an answer you chose, or whether it is an answer that arrived the way my sentences have arrived in your mouth for 31 years, the way my sentences seem to arrive in your mouth before I have finished thinking them, the way. And this is the thing I have been most afraid to say. This is the thing I came to Pembrokeshire to say, and could not say until now. The way I am beginning to suspect my thoughts have been arriving in your mouth. Not my sentences, not the spoken half, but the thoughts themselves, the unspoken, loaded mouthful before the speech. And that what you have been finishing for 31 years is not what I was going to say, but what I was going to think. And that the difference between what I was going to think and what you finished is the woman I am not. I want to say that more slowly. I want to say it because I want it in the room between us before either of us moves. I think you have been answering my thoughts. I think you have been answering them in the half-second gap before they became sentences. I think the sentences I have spoken in this marriage are the sentences your answers required, not the sentences my thoughts originally were. I think the woman you have loved for 31 years is a woman composed entirely of the back halves of your answers. I think she is, in some real sense, you. I think when you tell me you love me, what you are loving is a 31-year-long act of finishing, and I think you do not know this, and I think you are, in every way I have ever been able to measure, a kind man. And I think kindness is not the question. And I think this is the most terrible thing I have ever said to anyone. And I am saying it to you because you are the only person in the world who could possibly understand it. Except that, of course, you cannot. Because the part of you that would understand it is the part that has been doing it. I am going to stop. I am going to stop talking now. I am going to let the half second be as long as it needs to be. I am looking at you. You are not speaking. You are not speaking, and I want to put on the record here in this kitchen, with the wind doing what it is doing, that this is the first half second in 31 years that has been allowed to stay open. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you because I think it is costing you something I cannot see, and I want to acknowledge the cost. I want you to know I see the cost. I want you to know that the fact that I can see it means I am, and for this half second, the woman who started the sentences. I am the woman in Tooting in 1993. I am 26. I am angry. I am clear. I want to ask you the question once more, and I want to ask it knowing that you may not be able to answer, and I want to ask it anyway, because the asking is the thing I came here to do. Have you known? I want to say what just happened, because I need to say it before I lose it. You opened your mouth. You opened your mouth, and for the first time, perhaps in our entire marriage, no sentence came out. You sat with your mouth open for what I think was about 3 seconds, and then you closed it, and you looked at the table, and you said, very quietly, I don't know. I don't know. You said it slowly. You said it like a man who had not said those 3 words in that order in a very long time. You said it like a man searching for the shape of his own mouth. I want to say what I am feeling, because I want it on the record before whatever happens next happens. I am feeling tenderness. I am feeling, in fact, a great deal of tenderness, and I want you to know that the tenderness is mine, that I have not borrowed it from you, that I am, for the first time in possibly a very long time, sitting in a feeling that is entirely the one I started with. The tenderness is for the man who has just said, I don't know. The tenderness is also for the woman who started the sentence in Tooting. The tenderness is also, and this is the part that surprises me, for the version of you who has been finishing me for 31 years without knowing. I think that man is also, in some way, a man who has been finished. I think you, too, are the back half of an answer somebody else gave once, and I am wondering now, while we are sitting here, whose answer that was, and whether they are still answering, and whether the half-second gap I have been living inside was originally not yours at all. I do not want to pursue that thought tonight. I want to say what I want, while the half-second is open, while I am still the woman who started the sentence. I want to leave the marriage. I do not want to leave it tonight. I do not want to leave it angrily. I do not want to leave it in a way that makes you the villain, because you are not the villain, and one of the most disorienting things about this entire conversation is that I cannot find the villain, and I have looked. I want to leave it slowly and clearly and over a period of months, and I want the leaving to be a sentence I start and finish myself, all the way through to the full stop, and I want you, please, when I start the sentence, to let me get to the end of it. I want the leaving to be the first sentence in 31 years that nobody else has touched. That is what I want. I want you to know that I have said it, and I have said it in my own mouth, and I have said it without your help. I want one more thing. I want us to eat the bread. I want us to sit here and eat the bread and drink the wine and not say anything for some minutes. And I want, after the not saying, for you to be the one who breaks the silence, and I want you to break it with a sentence that is entirely yours, the way I have just spoken, sentences that are entirely mine. And I want us, for the rest of this night, to try, just to try. I'm to speak to each other across the half-second gap, with the gap held open, with neither of us reaching across it. I do not know if we can. I do not know if you can. I do not, when I am honest, know if I can, because the gap is not a thing I am used to either, and I want you to know that I am frightened of it. I am frightened of what I will think in it. I am frightened of what I will become in it. I am frightened that the woman who emerges from a full evening of unfilled half-seconds is a woman neither of us has met. And I am frightened that I will not like her. And I am frightened that you will not. And I am frightened that she will not need either of us. And I am, at the same time, more interested in meeting her than I have been in meeting anyone in a very long time. Please pass the bread. Thank you. I am noticing that you passed it without saying anything. I am noticing that you cut a piece for me. I am noticing that you cut it the way I like it, slightly thicker on one end, the way I have liked it since 1995. And I am noticing that this is not, this time, an act of finishing. This is an act of knowing. You know how I like my bread because you have cut my bread for 30 years, and the knowing is, I think, the part of you that I would like to keep. I would like, if it is possible, to find out which parts of our knowing of each other are the knowing and which are the finishing, and to keep the knowing and to let the finishing go. I think that is going to take a long time. I think it is going to take longer than the marriage has left to run. I am eating the bread. I am looking at you. You are looking at me. You're looking at me, and your eyes are wet, and you have not spoken. And I want to say to you, before either of us speaks again, that I love you, and that I have loved you, and that I am leaving the marriage, and that all three of those things are true at once, and that I am the one saying them, in my own mouth, with the gap held open, and that this is the first thing I have said to you in 31 years that has been wholly mine. The wind is doing what it is doing. The bread is between us. The knife is on the board. Nobody is reaching for it. I want to sit here with you in this half second for as long as it will stay open,